Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we are going to be going over how you can use Tutor.com, which is provided by SC Discus. How you can use Tutor.com to prevent summer slide in your students, in your children, and in your family. This will be recorded so that if anybody needs to access this at a later point in time, you'll be able to do that. Additionally, if there are any questions throughout the entire webinar, feel free to submit those and I'll get to them at the end of the session. Um, and then lastly, I do want to apologize for my voice, which is a little bit raspy today, but we can go ahead and get started. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to actually get into the tutor.com program. Now, there are a couple of different ways that you could do this, but the one that I personally would recommend is you go to the scdiscus.org site. Now, the reason I recommend this is twofold. One, it brings you right into the program and you won't have to worry about entering any additional information to get access to the tutoring. But additionally, there's just going to be tons and tons of resources and different databases that you and your families can use from this site. So I definitely recommend looking through it. But today, to get over to tutor.com, all you have to do is click A to Z resources. You scroll down all the way to T, and you find tutor.com, and then you'll click this link, and this will bring you over to the program. Now, once you pass over through to our program, it's going to look like this. Now, as you can see, this is our home page, and you have access to connecting with a tutor live right away. All the other options are grayed out, and they're grayed out because we do require an account in order to access them, because we do have to keep some kind of identifying information. Now, luckily for you, a lot of what you're going to be using today is probably going to be just connecting with a live tutor. But before we get to this, I do want to show you how to create an account, because when you create an account, you do get access to a whole bunch of awesome video lessons, and you get practice quizzes, drop-off questions as your students and children get a little bit older. So it's going to be incredibly helpful. To create an account, all you have to do is click create an account, or click any of these grayed out boxes and it will prompt you to create an account. You enter in the information, so first name, email address, password, and date of birth. Now, when it comes to the date of birth, that's where this is important, because if you have your child create their own account on their own and they are 13 years or younger, they're going to have what we call a COPA account. Now, when you have a COPA account, that means that you're going to have limited access because we can't keep that identifying information. So what I recommend is, if you are a parent or if you're a teacher talking to parents, I'd highly recommend you let them know to create an account under their own information. So for example, again, if I had a child who is 12 years old, instead of having them create their own account, I would create an account and put my name, Maxine, my email address, my password, and my date of birth. This makes it so that all of the identifying information is my own, and that way my child can still access all of the awesome features that we have. So once you finish all of that, you'll be all set. Now, I already have an account, so I don't really need to worry too much about that. Let me go ahead and sign in. And hopefully I remembered this correctly. Awesome. So now, as you can see, the top navigation bar, everything is bolded, which means I have access to everything. Now, again, since we're talking about the concept of summer slide, which for those who may not be too familiar, that is essentially during the summer months when a child is not in school, they lose a lot of that fundamental information that they're going to need for the next year. So it's important to kind of keep them on track and have them do some lessons or worksheets throughout the summer. Doesn't have to be a lot, but just enough to kind of retain that information. Now, when we're doing that, your best bet is to actually go to connect with a tutor now. Now, when you're here, you have access 24/7 to tutors. So while I don't think a 10-year-old is going to be up at midnight, if they wanted help at midnight, they can get that. And then you just fill this information out. So again, with a lot of younger students, which tends to be what the summer slide is focused on, we tend to focus on those reading subjects. So we actually can take care of that for you. If you click on topic and go to reading, and then subject elementary, then you'll be able to connect with one of our reading tutors. Now you select your grade, and this just gives the tutor a bit of an information as to what age level they are going to be tutoring, because even in the elementary realm, first grade is very different than fifth grade. So that approach that the tutor might take may vary. So it's important to fill this out truthfully. And then how you want to connect with your tutor. Now, I did mention before about COPA accounts and why it's important for a parent to create their account under their information for their child. The reason I say that is because if you have a COPA account, you'll only have access to a chat session. You won't be able to have that voice session. And the reason that it's important, especially for reading, is when you have a voice session, your child can actually hop on the microphone and talk back and forth with the tutor. That way they can get that practice. The tutor can kind of give them some more information and better tailor that session to them. When you're doing a chat only session, you can still get a lot of information done, but the actual reading out loud portion, you're not going to be able to get. It is only going to be talking about the concepts of the reading session. So again, it is very important to create an account under the parents' information so that they have access to this. And it's also going to be helpful for pretty much anything else that a young student is going to be going over. So for example, if I had a elementary school student in math, they can take that and kind of learn all those subjects, and having a voice session might be a little bit easier to communicate what their problems are. Same thing with all of these other subjects. And even for people who are kind of learning English, we have English language arts tutors. So you can choose from any of these options and have a voice session and work with the tutor that way. So again, we have hundreds of different subjects in this program for you. So it's definitely, we highly recommend you going into the program and messing around and seeing what it is that works best for you. But today, for example, I think we're going to just stick with like a math example. So for example, again, if my child was a math student, I choose math as the topic, elementary math as the subject, then the grade level that I want to get help in, and then how I want to chat. And then you just enter in the question. So this is really important to know because it can be as generic or as specific as you need. So for example, in math, if I don't understand the FOIL method, I can say, hey, I don't understand the FOIL method. Please help me out. However, if I am struggling on question 3 of a homework assignment, maybe I'm in summer school or I'm doing something else, I can just copy and paste that question in here and work on that directly with the tutor. So again, as generic or as specific as your child or student needs, we are going to be able to help out with that. So once you finish all of this information, you just hit connect now, and then you're brought over to the classroom. And the classroom is really a flexible tool for students. And we also make it as easy as possible for young students to use it. I've done class visits where I've worked with third graders and seen them access the program, get in here, have a session with a tutor. Granted, that was a chat session because if you can imagine, 30 third graders talking at once will be a lot, but they still have a very easy understanding of how the platform works. So you don't really have to worry about babying a child through this process. They'll get it pretty simply. Now, uh, all you have to do, this is a collaborative environment. So whatever it is that I draw, the tutor's going to be able to see, and vice versa. So you can, draw out math problems. You can illustrate those problems. Or for example, if you're doing something like, let's say what the water cycle is in science, the tutor is going to be able to draw that out for you. Additionally, you can import images. So if you took a screenshot of your child's homework and you wanted to upload that, you can do that. You can import formulas. So this is going to be super relatable for the younger students, especially in elementary school and early middle school. But as you start doing some basic geometry and stuff like that, this is going to be super helpful. You can copy and paste these formulas, throw them into the top corner, then your child won't have to worry about flipping through notes or trying to remember that. Additionally, you can bring in shapes. So again, if you're working on any shapes in any kind of math problem or anything that you're doing, you can bring that in, and we can even bring in graphs. So for example, if I'm doing a very simple plotting problem or if I'm trying to teach my child the basics of plotting, I can bring in this graph, this 4-quadrant graph, go into the bottom left-hand corner, change the background to graph paper, line it up, and then boom, you can start plotting some little simple things. So again, it is super flexible to whatever kind of session it is that you're having. Now, obviously, if you're having a reading session, what the tutor might do is import an image or share their screen to show a passage that you're going to be working on. So again, there's a lot of flexibility here. Now, if you're working with a child who's a little bit older, let's say late middle school, early high school, even regular high school, this is going to be super helpful. This can cover so many complicated graphing problems. It is fully functional, so you have all the different trigonometry, statistics stuff that you need in order to get this done. And it just makes it a lot easier because that way you don't have to really worry about working with the tutor and trying to explain something that you personally don't understand. They're going to be able to visually see what work it is that you're doing. Next up is the text editor. Now, for anybody, let's say in middle school, who's working on a summer paper, as sometimes schools have you do that, you can copy and paste that paper in here or even share it as a file by clicking the share file button. And then that way, the tutor is going to be able to go through it with you live and work on that paper with you. Get that feedback that you need to make sure that whenever you hand it in up in the upcoming school year, you're already going to be doing really well. And that's the main part of the classroom. I apologize. In the bottom right-hand corner, this is where you'd have a chat session. Now, obviously, nobody's going to be typing back to me because I'm in a practice classroom. But as you can see, it kind of works like any other instant messaging service, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, kind of stuff like that. Most people are very familiar with that. Now, if I wanted to have a voice session, there will be a little button over here saying activate voice session. Then you plug in your headset and you're pretty much good to go. Now, if you run into an issue, or if your child runs into an issue where their headset's broken, their computer's microphone's not working, we actually do have an option. You can call in with a toll-free number and an anonymous PIN, and that will safely and securely connect you with the tutor with none of that information passing through. So it's just another way for you to access tutoring. Now, once you're done with your session, you just hit end session. And if you're accessing as a guest, there's going to be a pop-up that allows you to email the transcript to somebody. Now you can do that. You can email it to yourself or to your spouse or something, just so that you have a record of what it is that your child's doing in the classroom. So it can be super helpful in that regard. Now back here, I wanted to take a moment and talk about the Skill Center. So the Skill Center is a super robust platform that we've kind of built out that links over to hundreds and thousands of different resources across the internet. And we've also been adding a whole bunch of proprietary information. So it's going to be super helpful if you are just looking for some worksheets to work with your children on this summer. You can go into the study resources, choose the topic. So let's do math, the subject. Now we have all these different subjects. Elementary is going to be obviously for elementary, but you can focus specifically on geometry or calculus, depending on what your child's doing. But for this example, let's do elementary. And then we have all of these different topics, and these will link out to videos, worksheets, flashcards, or web pages that just have that information available to you. So you don't have to do the Googling and the vetting yourself. This is all stuff that we vetted on our own. And additionally, in the top for math and English topics, we actually created a whole bunch of our own proprietary resources. So you have access to hundreds of different worksheets. So for example, we can go to second grade worksheets and look at all of these second grade worksheets that we have available. And you can download all of these and even bring them into the classroom to work with a tutor. So again, these are all at your disposal. And again, we also have them for English topics as well. And as you can see, this is just a simple passage, and then there are some questions afterwards. And since this is for second grade, it's a little bit simpler. But again, if your child ever were having issues, you can bring these questions or bring these worksheets into the tutor classroom with you. So again, that adds a little bit more flexibility to what it is that you're probably going to be needing when working with children this summer. Next up, I did want to talk about our early edge videos. These are mainly for what we like to say our late elementary school, early middle school students. However, really they're helpful for anybody. They can even be helpful for you as a parent. Let's say, for example, you your child is struggling in arithmetic or algebra and you want to help them and you don't want them to be having a session online. You can actually watch through these videos, learn a little bit more about the content that they're learning, and then help them out on their own. So it allows you to be a little bit more involved in their education practice if that's something that you want. Otherwise, they can watch this. This is a large database of information for them to use. So for example, in arithmetic, you just choose what topic it is you want help in, and then you click the video and you watch that video. So it's really that simple. And we have dozens of videos for each of these topics. Now, those are the main things that I wanted to highlight. There are some other things that are for older students, such as submitting a paper for review. And essentially that just allows you to submit a paper and within about 12 to 24 hours, though usually a lot quicker in my honest opinion, that will get sent back to you and you'll be able to read the tutor's feedback. Same thing with the math drop-off question. These are more focused on high school students, but the premise is still the same. You submit a question in about 24 hours that is sent back over to you. So I did want to pause for questions, see if anybody wanted me to go over anything again, or if you had any feedback or, just questions that maybe are more personal and like to your specific needs. So I'll leave the floor open for a couple of minutes. All right, so I did get a question, actually two questions it looks like, which were twofold. One, what were the hours again for live tutoring? Live tutoring is going to be available 24/7. So whenever it is that you or your child needs help, they can get help through tutor.com. The second was, what options do we have for other languages? So we actually have tutoring topics. So let's say your child is learning different languages. They can learn French, Spanish, German, Italian, and Arabic. We have tutors in all of those subjects to help them out for all of those grade levels, yet again. And then additionally, if your child or if your friend or if anybody that you're working with is more comfortable learning in Spanish, meaning that is their primary language, we actually have this awesome little toggle so we can switch over to Spanish as well as Vietnamese. And we have tutoring subjects available. So these are going to be fully staffed. And essentially, if I needed help in, let's say, algebra and math, but I'm a Spanish speaking student, I can do that, just fill in the information, and I can even have that voice session. So again, it is pretty much the same thing as our English tutoring. We have all those core subjects and the functionality is the same. Once you go into the classroom, you have access to the full whiteboard as well as talking to the tutor in Spanish. I hope that answers your question. I'll leave the floor open for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, again, there will be a recording that is sent out in a couple of days, so keep an eye out for that. And if you ever do have any further questions or want any more information, you should have my contact information. It's in the email that was sent over to you for signing up for this webinar, but feel free to reach out to me whenever it is that you need, and I'm more than happy to help. All right, it doesn't look like we have any more questions. So I'll go ahead and close that for now. But again, if anything does come up, as I know often does, I know how it is, by all means, send me an email down the line and I'd be happy to connect and help you. All right, thanks so much and have a wonderful day.